Hi. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Mark Craig. I am the Director of Human Services for the town of Foxborough. Thank you all for coming. I'd love to show a sign of show of hands, one of those. How many people is this their first time to this building? Okay. How many are not a regular person who comes here? Awesome. And you're coming here just for this, just to hear me speak. I appreciate that. How many people have an iPhone or an Android or a smartphone? That's awesome. That is great.
What have I got?
So originally I anticipated a much smaller crowd. This is a good problem to have, where I can kind of go one-on-one with people, which is okay. My plan today is kind of talk about some of the statistics about Uber and Lyft, how to actually book an Uber and Lyft in the future and sort of dispel some myths. Hopefully I can do that for you too. Since it's such a big crowd, I won't be able to sit with everyone one-on-one and actually set up their account, but I'm happy to do it. I mean, I'm here 40 hours a week. I'm happy to sit with people and actually set up the account. If you've ever downloaded an app before on your phone, it's exactly the same as that. If you've downloaded a game, it's the same thing. You know, you download an app, you create your account. The only difference is you would actually put in your credit card information, which can be a little scary. So if anyone needs additional help doing that, I'm happy to help. Not just because of the credit card part. Sorry, I smirked back there. I won't steal your identity, I promise. So, ride sharing. So one thing, the term ride sharing or TNC, Transportation Network Company, is interchangeable with Uber and Lyft. So if you see Uber or Lyft, or at an airport, it will actually say TNC, Transportation Network Company. It's all the same stuff. And ride sharing doesn't necessarily mean you're sharing a ride with some random person. You're sharing a ride with a random driver, but when Uber and Lyft were first set up, it was legitimately carpooling with other random people, and that's not really necessarily what they do anymore, although that option is still provided. So I'd love to start off with some ride share statistics. So last year, 2018, there were 49 million people who used Uber or Lyft at one point during the year. And drivers, there's over 2.1 million registered drivers with those two companies. 50% of all rideshare users are between the ages of 25 and 34, and only 1.6 are over 55 years of age. So the fact that you're here is unbelievable. We all know that transportation is an issue. If you're here, you understand that. Transportation for most people, certainly as they age, is an issue. Foxborough is blessed more than other towns where we have a great transportation network here from the senior center. But outside of our hours, you could be stuck. A few people were talking to me a few days ago where they rely on their children for transportation outside of the hours here, and your children have lives, right? They're doing their own thing. They're taking your grandkids to soccer practice on a Saturday morning. They might not be able to take you food shopping too. So my kind of hope with doing this class is to make transportation easier. While it's not a free transportation like what we provide, it's relatively low cost, especially when you compare with a local taxi service. So things to know. Driver requirements. Drivers need to be at least 21 years of age, need to have 3 years of a clean driving record, a registered vehicle, have an in-state car insurance, need to have a social security number, the car needs to be inspected, and the driver needs to pass a query check. So I say that because there's always stories of a crazy Uber driver in San Francisco who did something bad to someone. But as I said before, there's 2.1 million drivers. So you take any sort of large number like that, there's going to be a few not so great people. I drive for Uber and Lyft, so I like to think that I'm a normal person. So I'm a workaholic, if you don't know me yet. I'm a workaholic, so on the weekend, a Saturday night, my wife wants to take a bath. I get to go drive for Uber or Lyft and make a couple extra bucks too. So it's actually a nice little thing where I can use that money to buy stuff for me, which is nice.
Excuse me, do they have their pictures in the car the way a cabbie would?
Don't have to. So the way it works, and I'll sort of explain it, you actually, when you connect with someone with a ride, you actually see their face. So you can say, if you try to get in the car and it's not that person, you don't have to get in the car. So I'll actually explain that in a little bit. So prices do fluctuate. So it's not like taxis where there's a flat rate to go from one space to another. Ride shares can change based on weather, nearby events, obviously if there's a Patriots game or something like that, time of day or demand. So When work gets out at 5 o'clock, demand goes up because people are using it, so prices go up. Same thing that 12 o'clock, when some bars let out, prices go up because lots of people are looking for rides home rather than driving. So your $5 trip to the doctor today would be a lot different if you tried to go on a Sunday game day. If you're trying to go across town, it's going to be considerably more expensive. Ratings are extremely important. So at the end of each ride, you have the ability to rate the driver, and the driver has the ability to rate you through a star system. Yeah, it is laughable, but so as myself as a driver, I try to make a great experience for the person in the back seat, because if I get enough of low ratings, Uber fires me on purpose. They don't want to have bad drivers. They don't want to have people that are strange driving. They want to have a good experience for both the passenger and driver, because Uber and Lyft make millions upon millions of dollars by just connecting with drivers with passengers. They don't own anything. They own nothing besides servers. They just make the percentage off of every single ride, which obviously, as you can imagine, with 49 million people driving and riding every day, is a lot of money. So Uber and Lyft are cashless. All transactions are handled through credit cards through the application. Every once in a while, someone will give me $1 or $2 tip, but overwhelmingly the majority is all through credit card through the app. The app is unbelievably secure, but like anything online with your credit card information, nothing is impenetrable. Just like if you have a Foxborough Federal Savings account, that's not impenetrable either. Everything has a degree of risk. And this is my lawyer speak of, if you choose to take this risk, it is a risk. Anytime you have your personal information online, it is a risk, but it's one of those risk outweighs the good, I think, in this case. Tipping is not required, and it's not expected, and to be honest, it rarely happens. I like to think of myself as a good driver, and every once in a while I'll get a $1 tip or a $3 tip, but it's not something that happens all the time. And something that I didn't know until I started driving, I was tipping everyone because I'm going to think of myself as a polite guy, when in reality it's so few and far between that you don't feel compelled to do it. It's not like you're going to a restaurant where you know you have to tip that 15%. If you have an exceptionally good ride or someone has water in the back seat and you just feel like tipping them $1 because they're telling you their life story, you can do that, but it's definitely not expected. You can always, yeah.
Isn't tipping, now you can add it into?
You can add it in, yeah, yep. So at the end of your ride, it will actually, once you get out of the car, it will ask you to rate that person. If you want to tip them, you can tip them then. And some people, and I have a little placard that says, tipping is not expected. If you choose to do so, thank you. But just a way to hopefully get a couple of dollars again.
Does the company take a part of that?
Uber and Lyft don't take a part of your tips. They do take a part of the overall fee. And I'll explain that in a little bit too. I keep wanting to, I don't have my iPad, so I keep trying to do this to regular paper. You can always cancel a ride. So if you make a mistake, put the wrong address in while you're trying to figure out where you're going, and you realize it, up until you get in that car door, you can always cancel it. And ride cancels happen all the time, so it's not an awkward thing. If the driver is driving to your location, it gets canceled. They're not going to come and knock on your door and figure out where you are. They're just going to say, okay, I'll move on to the next ride. The driver doesn't care where you're going. The driver actually doesn't know where you're going until you're in the car. So if you're trying to go down the road, or if you're trying to go into Boston or Providence, the driver doesn't know that. The purpose of that is the driver can't then discriminate against where you're going and saying, I don't want to drive them, they're only going around the corner, it's only going to be $3. Or, I don't want to take them because they're going into Boston and I have to get home and cook supper. It just doesn't happen. The only thing drivers do see is if your ride is going to be longer than 45 minutes, it'll pop up and say, this ride could be a long ride. That's it. So there was one night where I wanted to drive for a little bit and was talking to my wife, I'll drive for a little bit, and I had someone that accepted a ride. It took me from, I live in the Cape, took me from Cape to Providence, and I was so tired. It was a long day after leaving here. It was good money, so I guess that was okay, but at the same time it was a little difficult. And you can also schedule your ride for the future. So if you wanted to schedule it for a pickup at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you can do that at any point during the day. There is a little bit of a fee added on. But typically within this area, rides are available within 5 to 10 minutes. So if you wanted to ride on demand, you're going to get a ride within 5 to 10 minutes. If you're in more of a rural area, like if I'm at home, 10, 15 minutes between the driver coming to my house. It's just something you usually build into the time. I want to figure out how I want to do this next. Okay, so I'm going to show you, so I have a lot of apps on my phone, obviously. So I have the Uber app. I'm going to predominantly use Uber because it's a little bit more user-friendly when you see it. Lyft typically is cheaper. I have a discount off because I got some coupon a few weeks ago, so it's going to be a little bit cheaper. But I find the Uber app easier to use, definitely easier to explain, while Lyft is cheaper. There's less Lyft drivers, so they try and make the rates a little bit less to try and get more people to use it, so hopefully they'll get more drivers. That's kind of their business plan. So in the Uber app, it's basically a map. You can see the map screen here. You can actually sort of scan around, and I'm obviously here in Foxborough, and while there's no drivers here in the immediate area, you can see someone up by the stadium. It looks like this little black dot. So I can see that that's where at least one driver is right now. A few minutes ago before I came up here, there was a whole bunch of drivers. So that means they're on rides. They've already grabbed their rides, they're off and running. I can see that there's a driver, it looks like somewhere in Walpole or Sharon. So it's very easy to use. This is the home screen. I can just have this open for as long as I want. Yeah.
Do you have to have cellular on when you're using this?
You do, yeah, you do need to have cellular. It does track where you're going. I don't know anything about the tracking issues, but it does track where you're going. It does. You can't just use Wi-Fi because once you get in the car, you're not going to have your Wi-Fi service from inside your house. So it's fairly easy to use. So you can see up in the top corner there's a where to button, because that's all it really cares about is where you're going next. But down the bottom you can actually see how was your trip with Gustavo, because I was on vacation last week and I took a ride at the end of my vacation, and I purposely didn't rate him because I wanted to show what the rating system looks like. So I open up my phone, Gustavo was great, I can hit 5 stars, and it automatically pops up and says, do you want to tip this person? He was good, but I'm not going to give him any extra money. So done. Very easy. That was the tipping process. But if I wanted to make a new trip, all I have to go is into the where to and choose where I want to go. It's just like any other map function you have on your phone. Where you're going, you can type it right in. I've actually preset, you can see the little star here right above the keyboard where Patriot Place. So I can click Patriot Place. I don't have the ride yet. It's not asking me to confirm a ride. It's just telling me that there are rides available to Patriot Place. Obviously, it's just across town. So there's several different options it's showing me. So I kind of want to go through each option and explain them a little bit in depth. Over to the far left, the one that's in black now is Express Pool. So this is this is the cheapest option. So it's a pool. That's the carpool. Express is where you would actually walk to a further distance. So it might say, we'll pick you up in the Common. You don't ever have to do this. This is the cheapest option. If you want to save as much money as possible, if you've got time to kill and you want to do that, I haven't had a single Express Pool ride, and I've been driving for about 4 months. A pool is if you want to pick up your exact location, but you might pick other people up on the way. That's the pool. So it's a little bit more expensive, but it's very basic. The UberX is just a typical ride. This is what 90% of the rides are going to be, is UberX. And you can see from here up to Patriot Place is $6.98. I called a taxi company, which will choose to be, I won't name. From here to Patriot Place, $15 to $20. So, and I didn't use this building. I said, if you pick me up at the Common, how much would it be? He said, $15, more like $20. $15 to $20 to get across town. There is where the benefit of Uber or Lyft is it's $6.98 to get across town. Now, if you want to be a little fancy, if you're going a night out in the town, all you have to do is swipe. Uber Black is a Mercedes, BMW, more of a limousine-style car. Obviously, the price jumps up, $23.91 just to get to Patriot Place. Who's going to do that unless you're really going out on a 50th anniversary dinner? There's other options too. There's a black SUV, so if you wanted to be in a Cadillac Escalade, the big giant thing that can seat 6 people, you can do that. That's $32. Or if you just want a minivan or something because you have a lot of friends, that's Uber XL. It's $12. So when I was on vacation last week, I had a group of 10 of us, and if we were in Disney World, if we were going to a park and didn't want to take a bus, we did an Uber XL for basically the same price to get across Disney property, just because it was the easiest option. It was cheap, it was fast, it was easy. So from here, I would never do any of those unless I was not in a group. Since my credit card information is already set, all I have to do is click that black Confirm UberX button, and automatically it will actually contact all the drivers in the area. And you can see someone is actually right on Chestnut Street now, and there's someone off of Central, right close by. You can see those two drivers, they'll actually get a message on their phone that says, there's a driver in your area looking to take a ride. Would you like to accept? And actually it'll show my picture. Would you like to accept a ride from Mark? So the driver in their car can look at it and say, yeah, I've got some time to kill. I want to take a drive, and they would accept. They don't have to accept. If they don't accept, it goes to the next closest driver. So if you don't get an acceptance within a few minutes, it means it's really, people keep denying, but that's rare. If you don't have any drivers in the area, it just means that it's, oh, sorry. Isn't she cute?
Yeah.
It just means that it's going to the next available driver. So that's all. They can't see where you're going. They don't know where you are at that point. They're just saying, do you want to accept a ride? Once they accept, it will tell them the location that you're looking to be picked up. So the phone automatically assumes that you want to ride from where you are now. It assumes that you are somewhere and you want to ride. So just like any other map application, you can choose where you want to get picked up. If you want to get picked up over at Town Hall, you can choose that too, if you wanted to go for a nice little walk. Just like any other map, the top is where you are, or where you're going to get picked up, and the bottom is where you're going. So, I'm going to Patriot Place, and I'm actually going to see, I'm going to hit confirm. So it's going to send that notification out to the drivers nearby and let them know that I'm ready for a ride. So I'm going to cancel it fast. So if the confirmed location, yes, I obviously want to get picked up at the senior center. And so it's showing, at this point, it's messaging out to all the other drivers, do you want to accept a ride, do you want to accept a ride? So we'll take probably a couple minutes and says, right now, there's a driver two minutes away. I'm going to have to cancel quick. It says 2 minutes away there. From here, I can say, yeah, that sounds good, 2 minutes sounds good. Or if it says 15, no, I have to get there faster. But right now, I'm going to hit cancel so that driver doesn't show up and say, I'm here to pick up Mark. It's taking Patriot Place. So it's fairly simple. I'm going to do that again, but different location. If I'm going into Logan, Logan Express Pool, that's that cheaper option. If you're going a long distance, you're definitely going to be picking people up. So if you're really just looking to save a couple of bucks and you've got hours to spend, go for it. Just do an UberX. It'll cost you $5 more, but you're not picking random people up along the way. So from here into Logan, $44.29. Does anyone want to guess what that taxi company was going to charge?
Oh my gosh.
95.
What? What did you say UberX was?
Yeah, $44.29. Oh, just a typical car.
Well, what if you a lot of luggage?
So that would be like the car and trunk. So I've taken, if you have excessive amount of luggage, so it actually tells you, if you click that, it says capacity is 1 to 4 people. So if you have 4 people plus a lot of luggage, you'll probably have to do a bigger vehicle, just like you would normally.
And they would tell you that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So there's been a few times where I've picked people up in Mansfield that I didn't assume was going to be a trip into Providence to the airport. And I said to the woman, you're going to have to put your luggage on your seat because the trunk is filled with a baby car seat and toys. And she had no problem with that. It wasn't an issue. She was going to the airport from her work. So again, $44.29 from here to Logan, where taxi is $95. Big difference, right? There's pros and cons to each company. Taxi, there's a number to call if you don't like the ride. There's someone to call and yell at the manager and say, I didn't like that driver. Uber doesn't have that. There's not even a contact phone number to complain. There's the rating system, but there's also the ability to then go back. So I can, a few weeks ago, my wife left her glasses in an Uber. Pain in the neck, huge, huge pain in the neck. But all I had to do was swipe up to my previous rides. I was able to contact the driver. The driver turned around and came back and brought the glasses. They automatically charge you if they do that. You get charged $5, but her prescription glasses obviously cost way more than $5, so I was happy to pay it. So rather than have to call a number and yell at the manager of the taxi company, I was able to handle it all just myself and that person. So it's fairly easy to use if you're comfortable with an iPhone or an Android. If you're not, that's okay. There's actually other options that I'll talk about in a few minutes. But if you ever use a Google Map function or Apple Map function, it's very similar once you set up your account, as long as you're comfortable putting your credit card information out there. I want to make sure.
So it's per person going to the airport, right?
It's not. So this is based on per ride. It just knows that 4 people can fit in my car. That's all I can take. I can't take any more.
So it's only that one price?
That one price. Yeah. So it's fairly cheap, and there's been times where, if you've ever seen, I drive a little Jetta to work. So there's been times where on a Saturday night there'll be people that I know that they just met each other in the bar. Hey, you're going to the other side of town. Why don't we split that Uber? And that's up with them. If they want to split the cost and they handle cash between the two of them, going from one bar to the other, that's on them. I'm just taking the ride.
Did I understand you to say that if you go in to Boston and there's 4 people, it's still $44?
It's just one.
It's just one cost.
Who determines the cost?
So Uber does. So it's actually based on a number of factors. So I'm going to give you Lyft's base cost, which is basically the same as Uber. So the minimum fare is $5 for Lyft. So if you're going anywhere, it's $5 minimum. So if you're going down the road to the Common, still $5. Just like a taxi, you pay per mile, but it's 88 cents per mile or 36 cents per minute. And there's a maximum fare too. So if you're driving to New York, it's going to be a number of hours, it's going to be a number of miles, but the most they can charge you is $700. So you're going to get to that point, and it will literally say, you've driven $700 worth, do you choose to let the driver out? $700 is a long way, it's way past New York to get to that. I had one ride from, if you're familiar with the area, from Mashpee to Providence, where the ride was $110. I was very happy with that $110. It took me, an hour, but I still felt like that was 60 miles that I drove, and it was only $100. So you'd have to drive an incredible distance to get that $700 maximum. So
How much of the cost do you get as a driver?
So as a driver, the rates typically are, of the 100% that comes in, 80% stays with the driver, which means 20% stays with a company that has no physical assets. Not bad, right?
Good news, you have to keep the application on during the trip?
No,
Or
no.
This is just to get the trip?
This is just to get the trip. You can shut it off. You can close out of it. You can play video games on your phone if you wanted to, or you can just put it right in your
Who
pocket.
determines the mileage or the cost? The driver?
The driver's app will actually it'll measure the GPS location of where you're getting picked up
Okay.
and along the road. So the battery, while I'm driving, my battery
And
drains
he
like
has the
crazy.
credit card number?
No, the driver actually has none of your payment information. All the payment is handled through Uber and Lyft. I don't see any of that. The only thing I can look up as a driver afterwards is I can see, how many miles we drove, the timing, and I can see how much you paid, and I know how much I got. I don't know any information
So they
of.
send you the check or the money?
Yeah, so it's actually really interesting, and I'm gonna, not trying to confuse people, but I want to show this. So this is the driver page. It looks very similar. You can see up top there's the 0.00. That's how much money I've made today. So what happens is after every ride, it says Uber and Lyfting. It shows you, $25 was this trip, and then the next trip was $5, so it automatically adds it up. And drivers can choose to either get a weekly check or take the money out whenever they wish for a little fee. So I do it at the end of each night and then just throw it into my bank account. It costs me 50 cents to get it on demand rather than wait for a check from San Francisco from Uber. It's easier for me just to say, transfer the money right into my bank account. But all the money stays with them. So if I chose to not get the payout or get the check, Uber not only has my 20% from the ride, they're also collecting interest on my money. So it only benefits me to just cash out immediately to make as much money as I can, I guess. You can see at the top right, there's my picture. So once you get accepted, if you're the passenger and accepting a ride, you're gonna have the ability to see my picture. You can see how many stars. I have 5 stars. That's really good. I'm happy about that. You can see that I've taken 68 rides in the last 2 months. Someone said I have a cool car, someone has a great conversation, and you can put a little bit of information about yourself. I just wrote Director of Human Services for a municipality because I don't really want anyone to know my real information, but just that I'm a normal guy. So you can actually see all this information about your driver. So if you accept and you're waiting for the driver to come and you look at the person, you say, I hate to say it, looks a little creepy, you can cancel your ride if you really wanted to. Or I've had a woman say, I look at the person and I figure out it's late at night, I don't want to get in the guy's car, you look like a nice guy, I have no problem getting in a car with you. And overwhelming, I know there's a lot of women here, overwhelming, I'm driving women who just freely get in the back of a strange man's car. They don't know me. There's a joke around that 20 years ago, you're not supposed to talk to people online or get in strangers' cars, and now we're talking to people online and getting in their car. So it's one of that society is changing a little bit, and it's getting that comfort level for people that are still, obviously anytime you interact with anyone, it can be dangerous, but at the same time, the security, the checkpoints that you have to go through. It took me 2 weeks to be approved by Lyft because they ran that Corey check. They had me take a picture of my inspection sticker and my license and my registration. My inspection sticker expires in April, and I've already got notifications from Uber and Lyft and saying you have less than a month to get a new inspection sticker, otherwise you'll be dropped from us. So they're up in their game because they know they want to keep publicity good, so they can keep taking in that 20%. So, any specific questions? That was a lot of information really quick. I'm sorry, but hands go right up. Yeah.
If you're going in for a medical appointment, can you arrange a round trip, or is this strictly point to point?
You can't arrange for a round trip.
Okay.
You can arrange for a stop along the way. So one thing you can do is if you were going home from a doctor and you knew you wanted to stop at a pharmacy, you can stop to do that. You'll get charged for the wait time. That's fairly easy to do. You can't do a round trip because Uber and Lyft assume that if you're going somewhere, you're going to be able to get a ride in 5-10 minutes, so it doesn't benefit them to make a round trip appointment, knowing that your appointment could last for more than an hour. It could be an hour and 20 minutes, and there's someone waiting. Yeah.
Corey checks, as far as I know, are contained to Massachusetts. They don't do a federal database check.
Correct.
So how do I know that someone driving from out of state has been checked?
So the way that Massachusetts, the laws that Massachusetts has put in place with ride sharing, you have to be a Massachusetts driver. I don't think you have to be a resident, you have to be a Massachusetts driver to drive in Massachusetts. Now, if I went down to Rhode Island, and I've done it a few times, pick up rides down there, they don't care where I'm from. I've been queried through Uber for Massachusetts, but they don't care. So luckily, we live in a state where people care. Although I will honestly say, I'm a younger person and not concerned about that, I did Ubers all last week in Florida, and there was not a single concern. One car I got in was dirty. That was it. That was my only worry. I've actually been more concerned about some of the people I've had in my car that have been drinking than I think drivers, and I take Ubers every once in a while, so it's not like it's a few and far between thing for me.
Do you take Uber versus Lyft? How do you?
You can actually, what I do is I check both. So I'll open Lyft, so I don't want to confuse people, but I'll open Lyft and kind of do the same thing. And again, it looks similar. The homepage is a map, so very similar. It's just kind of upside down. So if I'm going somewhere, I'm going to check the price of both locations and figure out which is cheaper. So Lyft will charge me $10 to go from here to Patriot Place, where Uber was charging me cheaper. So for 30 seconds worth of work, I'll check to see which is cheaper. Typically, Lyft is cheaper. So I don't know why that is. Maybe just one, there's very few drivers. But it looks like there's a Lyft driver that's about to drive by the senior center, 3, 2, 1, about to drive by in a minute. So that's really, I did not plan that, I promise.
You cancel.
Come to pick me up. But the same thing with Lyft, you can actually scroll across and see luxury cars if you want a luxury car, if you wanted that. But yeah. Any other? Yeah.
When you're on your phone
Mhm.
and you're in the app and you want to make a pickup, you want to schedule that, it has to be from the location where your phone is at.
No. So I can
Okay.
say in the Where To button, if I know that I'm going to be leaving, I'm going to do a good one. I know that Foxborough Town Clerk, if I know I'm getting picked up at Town Hall and I'm going home, let's see what this cost is gonna be, to my home in Falmouth. From here to home, but being picked up at Town Hall, not here, is $79.55. So you can check the location wherever you want to be picked up. If you want to be picked up at a friend's house but you're not there, or you want to order a ride for a friend, you can do that. That's very complicated. But yeah.
Let me go back over that, just if you don't mind. So, we're gonna, hypothetically, I'm gonna go out from the location where the phone is at, with me, from my address. But then, I'm gonna want to have a later ride from another location where I'm not.
Right. So,
So that would, obviously making this arrangement for someone else.
yeah, if you were pre-setting a ride, for example.
Yeah.
So you can see earlier, I just did the Foxborough Town Clerk, which obviously I'm not there, to home. You can see at the bottom right-hand corner, there's a little car with a clock. So if I click that clock, I can actually choose what time I want the driver to pick me up. The drivers don't get notified until about 20 minutes before the
You
time.
can put the return
You could preset that if you wanted to.
for the return.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah, so you,
Okay.
technically, I guess you could do a round trip.
So you prepay for the whole thing.
You don't actually pay until you get out of the car. So none of the money, there's no transaction until you're leaving, till you're out of the car, that's when you're actually being charged.
How many trips can you schedule
Okay.
at a time?
I have no idea, that's a good question. More than likely, probably not more than one or two, because they don't want to clog the system, but also because Uber and Lyft is set up more as an on-demand feature rather than a pre-set up, because on-demand, and this is the benefit to Uber and Lyft, is it is always on demand. There's always a driver within 10 minutes of, sorry, I'm getting a text. There's a driver always within 10 minutes of you, rather than just assuming, oh, I hope there's a driver around. It's not like a taxi where the taxi company could be driving into Boston and they only have one car. There are 2 million drivers. Not obviously all working at once, but there are that many drivers. I'll go, yeah, right.
Do the cars have child safety seats?
So we don't have that yet. So when I was down in Florida, Florida is one of the few states that has the ability to actually, when you're swiping back and forth between an Uber X or an XL or a Mercedes or whatever, they actually have a car seat option, which is why in Disney World they want to make sure that they can collect the money. I always have my daughter's car seat in the back seat. I did have one mother in Rhode Island who tried to just buckle her 3-year-old in the back seat and said, "No, I have a car seat. I'll get the car seat out." And that was just a precaution I put in place. But they don't have to have car seats, so they typically don't.
You showed how there's a quote for how much a particular trip costs up front,
Mhm.
but the trips are also on miles and time.
Right.
And so suppose the miles and time don't equate to that initial
So
number.
what Uber and Lyft, the applications actually do is they use real-time traffic data and the GPS location to figure out, obviously traffic can happen right now. Traffic could just start right this second after my ride. So it's assuming that whatever traffic is in Boston right now will be there in 20 minutes when you get there, 30 minutes when you get there. Now, obviously, there could be extensive traffic between now and then. The price would go up, but this isn't like a taxi where you're sitting in the back and you're seeing it scroll through and you're figuring out if you have enough money in your wallet. I've had a few rides where I've been in traffic and didn't anticipate it, but unless you're going through rush hour traffic, it's not going to be more than $1 or $2 based on the percentage of the
So
cost.
the initial number is adjusted.
It is adjusted.
Okay,
Yep,
that's
yep.
my-
Yeah, it's not a guarantee, but within $1 or $2 every single ride, yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Back to me again. So so I'm gonna be a little bit more specific.
Okay.
So got the phone, wanna book the ride with, let's say, Uber. But I'm not the person taking the trip.
Mhm.
But I'm the person with the phone and the credit card.
Yep.
So the person gets in the
Yeah,
car and
yeah.
goes to the place, and then when the person gets out, you're supposed to make the payment.
Right.
Can we make that work some way?
Yeah, so last week, I had my wife's cousin who was getting a ride from a theme park to a shopping area. She
Okay,
didn't have Uber and Lyft. I said, well, why don't I just do it for you?
okay.
This is where it kind of got a little complicated because I booked the ride for her.
Mhm.
It's my account, so the driver says, I'm picking up Mark, and they're gonna be at the stop looking for Mark. So you can actually text them or call them and say, it's not Mark, it's a young girl in a red shirt. Some drivers might say, nope, I'm not doing that, I don't know who that person is, I'm not letting that person in the car.
I see.
Where for me, as a driver, I don't really care who's getting in the car. There's a little bit of heightened sense of nervousness there. Just the same way as if you got in a car and it says it's gonna be Mark and it's someone else driving, you'd be a little nervous too. But it's not out of the norm. A lot of people I've picked up, I'll make a joke about it, and you don't look like a Stephanie, because it's their girlfriend, boyfriend, they're using their accounts because they're booking rides for friends.
What I'm saying is so that the other person gets in the car on the account, I set it up, that person goes to that location where they're gonna get out.
Yep.
They don't have the phone, so I have that on here. So how would I pay the driver when that other person who doesn't have the phone gets out of the car?
So the second the passenger gets out of the car, the driver has to click a button saying the ride is complete.
Okay, and that would come on the phone,
Yep.
boom, okay.
And then that, you get the notification the ride is complete. Also as a safety measure, you know that the ride is.
That's perfect.
Yep.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and however, I will preface that with saying that if you had a dishonest driver and knew that the person in the back seat, they could keep on driving for a few more miles and then say the
Well,
ride
you
is
can have the
complete.
person text you or call and say, I just got out.
Right,
Or-
exactly,
I mean, something kind of like that. Thank you very much.
That's fine.
If the driver has Easy Pass, how are the tolls handled?
So tolls come off the Easy Pass, but Uber and Lyft, the applications know that you've driven through a toll and will charge you. Yeah. So, yeah, it's pretty intuitive. It knows there's no extra fee if you drive to Providence Airport, but if you drive to Boston, it's like a $4 fee that you get charged that goes back to the passenger. The driver doesn't pay that.
Now, do they do that while you're in the car? I mean, it's automatic?
It's automatic, yeah. The application actually will know that there are such and such tolls along the way, so when the passenger gets out, it will actually say, your fee is this, your toll is this, your total is this, do you want to put a tip on?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Now, it doesn't matter with the number of people, you can have up to 4 people and it's still the same price.
Correct. I love that, because that seems to be because the driver, not like a taxi where they might charge you for each person. The driver truly doesn't care how many people in the back seat. They're just driving from one location to the other. I'm actually surprised that taxis still have this weird number. The cost doesn't change, right, for the taxi driver to drive from one location to the other. It's just a way to say, yeah, let's add a fee on because you have a friend. That doesn't seem very fair.
But if you have a small car, I don't know how legit is it, right?
So
4 people can't get in it.
yeah, so the way that when you set up your account as a driver, you set up your account, you have to submit your car. You have to tell them what year. If your car is an older car, they'll deny you right off the bat. So I have a 2008 Jetta. The minimum I think I could have is a 2006. So if I still have that car 2 years from now, Uber will deny me and say, your car's too old, we don't want to use you anymore. Because they want to make sure that the cars are nice that they're in, you're not in crap boxes, basically. So they actually know 2008 Jetta has 4 passenger seatbelts. So it goes by seatbelts by anything else. Yeah. And legally, obviously, everyone's supposed to be wearing a seatbelt, so I have the chime set so everyone must wear a seatbelt, otherwise it ding, 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 ding. And another thing I actually forgot to mention, it's like a taxi where you can sit wherever you want. If you get in the passenger seat, that's okay. If you get in the back seat, that's not weird either. I'd say probably 75% of people get in the back seat and play on their phone, or some people sit up front. It doesn't matter. It's not an awkward thing. Taking your first ride is scary. Like, where are you going? I'm getting into someone's car and I'm using my phone. What my best suggestion is do a short trip so you feel comfortable. If you know you're going from here to Dunkin' Donuts or something, that's a good first trip. So that way, it's not a long ride, so you're not feeling nervous in the back seat. Probably the most nervous I've ever been is driving for my first trip. because people getting in the car don't know it's your first trip, and they ask you all these questions, and how's it arrived today? Like, you're my first person ever. So there's actually a group of high school kids that I was taking, they were skipping a high school dance. So that was really interesting. Yeah, they were skipping a dance going to a friend's house. I'm like, I'm not trying to be a dad here, so. Any other specific questions?
So how do you go about setting up an account
Yep,
to be
so-
part of the?
So, to set up an account, the very first thing you need to do is download the application. You download that app, and it truly walks you through. So if you've ever downloaded an app before, you know how to do it. It will, very first thing will pop up and say, what's your cell phone number? It'll ask your cell phone number, so that way it can send you a code to make sure you're not a spammer trying to get in Ubers and mess around and hack their system. It wants to know that you're a real person. It'll send you a cell phone number, and then it will text you a direct code to know that you're an actual person. And then from there, it's just your name, your address, your credit card information, which again can
Can you
be.
use a debit card?
You can use a debit card. I have it to my debit card, and it's one of my accounts that I keep
Yeah, I'd rather-
very few in, so that way if there's ever an issue,
Yeah.
it's there. That's my online card for buying anything.
Thank you.
No problem. No worries, no worries. And then once you get it's maybe a 5-minute process, which is why I'm saying if anyone has any questions, if they have their iPhone, I'm happy to show people. We have senior supper in a little bit, then a performance, but I'm here until 6:30. I'm happy to spend time. I'm here again 40 hours a week. It'll take maybe 5 minutes as long as you have your credit card information, you know your information. That's the hardest part of setting up Uber and Lyft, is setting up your account. After that, it's just setting up rides.
I was wondering why a debit card would be advantageous over a credit card.
So credit card, your limit might be $13,000, where you can have a debit card account with only $100 in it. So that's what, like because I'm a little crazy with online security, I have a separate Bank of America account with very little money in it. So that way, God forbid, my identity is stolen, it's that card's identity. And they can only, if someone takes $100, okay, but it's much better than maxing out my credit card.
Okay, I wanted to ask, how did you get this second checking account, debit account, without paying a monthly fee?
I pay a monthly fee,
You pay,
the $5 a month from Bank of America.
how much?
$5,
That's all?
yeah.
How come?
That I don't know.
You pay a $5 fee to have an extra debit card?
Yeah, so I have my, so I have 13 accounts, because I'm crazy with money, and most of them are linked together, and I put a little bit of money in each vacation account. I'm crazy, don't ever do it, but I'm young and stupid. So I actually have a separate, that's not connected to my real money, separate account for online purchases as a just in case.
You use Quicken.
I don't use Quicken.
What you're doing, the banks used to do for you for nothing years ago. You could have a vacation account,
Yeah.
and you promised to put $15
Yeah.
a month or however much. You could, Christmas account,
Luckily, those
free.
have met the minimum. If I don't forget the actual dollar. If you hit the dollar figure that they say, we'll stop charging the money. But as it's completely separate, Bank of America and Foxborough, unbelievable. I complained because I did an overdraft charge on that account and explained, go look at the other account, see how much money's in the account. I'll happily take it out. And they waived the fees because they didn't want to lose the real money. Yeah.
How does this show up on your credit card statement?
So for your credit card statement for Uber, it actually says Uber Technologies and gives the date and time of your trip. So you can actually go back and see. So last week I took maybe 15 rides. I can actually go back and see and compare, because I am a little crazy. I'll go back and compare what I was charged to what my statement was, and it will all match.
And any dispute we have would go to the credit card company anyway?
Exactly, right.
Just to go back to the very beginning, you glanced over it. Ride sharing, you said if you're in an airport, it won't say Uber or Lyft, it'll say what?
It will say TNC, Transportation Network Company.
TNC.
Correct. Yeah, they just don't want to use the name Uber and Lyft, so that way Uber and Lyft go out of business, there's always going to be that next company. Just like they say ground transportation rather than MBTA bus, ground transportation, yeah.
Transport net.
So I can see we're running a little bit long on the senior supper, but yeah.
What happens if you're going down 128 and there's a typical accident and so forth, and if you're there for an hour, 2 hours, what happens then?
You're gonna be charged. You can always, and if you really truly wanted to, if you were nervous about the cost, you could change your drop-off location to someplace closer, but then you're dropped off in the middle of 128 somewhere. But to be honest, as a driver, if someone said to me, look, we've been sitting in traffic for an hour and a half talking, I would tell them, turn off Uber and Lyft. I'll just charge me whatever. We can't control this. You can't control this. I can control this. We'll just figure out what it's going to cost when you get to the end. So you can cancel the ride while you're in the ride. You won't be charged. If you had a nice driver, I mean, that's what I would do because by that time you've developed a relationship with someone if they're in the backseat for 2 hours, right? So, any other final questions?
Does the app allow you to print anything, like the history of your rides or anything like that?
You have everything emailed to you. So your email would actually be able to print it through there. So you have to have an email. The two things you have to have is a cell phone number, US-based cell phone number, and an email address because that's your lifeline to connect with Uber or Lyft.
But you said you can communicate with the driver through text.
You can,
Yeah.
but it's not their actual, it's not their actual phone number. It masks it, so that way they don't have your contact, they don't have your direct contact info.
Yeah.
You don't have theirs. It kind of goes through, so that way if I call someone and I'm yelling at them, they can turn it off and never talk to me again, and there's no way for me to know them, and there's no way for them to know me.
Well, these are good to know.
Thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate it. Hopefully that was easy. If not, come talk to me. I'll happily help. Thank you.
Thank you.